And we're live. Hello, everyone. This is the Kiltz Health live streaming 3 p.m. on Tuesdays and Thursdays. I am Dr. Nelson. I'm coming from Florida. Please put in the chat where you're watching us from. And let me go live on Instagram here. And here we go. Instagram is now being shown on vertical screen instead of horizontal.
I
I,
know, I saw that. Yeah.
I'm still trying to figure out if I like that.
Mhm. It's
And
definitely different.
I see Jay is here, Rick is here. Hello.
Mhm.
Um, Larry Ryan, where pigs fly farm. Hello, Bacon Runner, Roxanne.
Yeah.
And I thought I had seen Lois, but I don't see him now. Okay.
Hmm.
All right. Well, hello, everyone. It's the 20th of November, 2025. And today we have Laura Russell with us, and we're gonna be having a conversation with her for a while here. Please put your questions in the chat. If you put QQQ in front of it, makes it easier to find. Um, and we're gonna go ahead and start right away. How are you doing, Laura? Where are you located?
I am located on the opposite side of Illinois from Chicago and a little bit downstate. So West Central Illinois.
All righty. So, how's the temperature over there? Getting cold?
To Yeah, it's starting to get a little bit cooler today. I think it was 50, which is perfect because tomorrow is opening day of shotgun season for deer hunting. So cooler
Okay.
temperatures are good. Yeah.
Are you going out?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
I have only had deer once uh in my life. Someone that went hunting and got some meat, made
Mhm.
some for me, but this is so long ago I can't remember. I liked it,
Yeah.
but
Similar to lamb.
this was about 35 years ago.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's very similar to lamb, and it all is in your preparation. So I'm a big proponent of field dressing it right on the spot, cleaning it out, hanging it for several days, allowing the natural process like they used to. And then after, so many days, then I start processing it myself and grind up some of it. Some I make into steaks, some into roast, some of it I cold pack into jars so that it's shelf stable for about 10 years. So I like to do that as well.
Okay. Um so we have a comment here. Pretty lady Laura,
Ah.
kitchen witch.
Kitchen witch. Hello.
Hello, everyone. All right. So I know many people here probably already have an idea who you are. Many of the people that I see here, I also see them frequently, especially when I go and visit the Keto Cookout, and
Yes.
you're there frequently every other week. Hello,
Yep.
George. Good enough. But for those who may not know, please give us your background, who you
Sure.
are, what problems you may have had
Sure.
before finding carnivore, and how you were helped. And if you have a
Yep.
pictures, if you bring them up uh,
Yep.
while you talk,
Yep. I can do that.
yeah.
Let's share screen. Let's see if it'll let me. Sometimes it's Grouchy. There we go. So that is where I started. That would be in 1991. If it's showing there, yep. So in 1991, that is 313 pounds of me. I was 20 years old and had been following the advice of my newer PCP. He was pretty new out of high school or out of college, and for about a
I
year,
hope he
and he
wasn't.
went,
I hope he wasn't a
yeah,
doctor
yeah.
right out of high school.
He was
But
he was a real doctor, yeah, and, so he was very young. I think he graduated high school at 15 and then went on to medical school, so he was actually
wow,
very young when he became a doctor, and went into practice, but anyway, I followed his advice, which was, 90s. It was low fat, chicken breast, no skin, everything, gotta be fat free. I did that and went from 240 pounds in a year up to the 313. Went back, had my blood drawn, went back to see him, and he tried to, well, he did not tried. He handed me a script for Lipitor because my triglycerides were at least 1,000. That's as high as their thing went at the time. So, which is actually saying like pre-diabetes, which is what actually scared me. He said, next year you'll be poking yourself, you'll be doing insulin, all these things. And I really have transgressions against needles when they're pointed at me. So I knew that I was like, I'll do whatever it takes to stay away from that. So I did take the
I think.
script
I
with me.
think.
I did ask him.
I think we
Yeah,
should mention that you. What is your current profession?
I am a registered nurse. I
All right.
enjoy poking other people. Yes,
Yeah.
yes. So at the time, though, I was not a nurse at the time. I'd always wanted to be a nurse. I already had my prereqs, but I had not started nursing yet. But so I was disheartened at that because, I asked him, "Am I gonna be on this for a week?" Thinking like an antibiotic, and he was like, "No, it's forever." And I was like, I don't wanna live out of a bottle. And so we had a really beautiful, old library, and I went to that library every night after work for weeks, and I took Xerox copies, which is aging, myself, for all of those weeks, every page that I could out of the old medical journals and also the veterinarian journals. So from about 1850 to 1910. And the reason I specifically stopped at 1910 is I was raised by a mother who was very holistic, functional, herbologist type thing. So I knew that the medical system had been kind of hijacked at that point. So I knew like I'm living what they've already taught. That didn't work for me. I need to see what was there before when we were not constantly sick. So I just chose to follow that, which is where keto came in. So I don't remember anybody ever calling it keto at the time. Everything was just low carb, it was get rid of the white stuff. So I did that. And in 9 months, I did lose 153 pounds. And my triglycerides, my next blood work was 33. And he was very happy with that until I told him that I had not filled the prescription for the statin. Then he was very, very mad. And of course, I was young. I was almost 21 at that point. And he just basically point blank said that if I didn't take the statin, that I would die a fat ass. So that didn't go well with my personality at all. And I just was like, I
Now
berated
that,
him a little, not horrible, but it just that I feel like he should have known what to do with my body.
however, this was after you didn't take the medication. That was your
Mhm.
decision, but you did the right
Yeah,
thing because basically you went in on that. By the way, even before, even when I was prescribing often
sure.
Lipitor, the best way
Mhm.
to deal with high triglycerides, the two things that I always did was cut the carbs and omega-3 fatty acids, which
Right.
most people, even people who are trying to go natural, have no
Mhm.
problem
Yeah,
with. And
yeah.
you went back there with what, 100 plus pounds less, excellent,
153.
excellent triglycerides, and he was
Mhm.
still upset.
Yes, he was very, very mad. He was red face mad. Stopped sitting. He was sitting on his little circular, chair. Stopped sitting, stood, went to the doorway, and then I just said, I feel like you should have known how my body works. I had to go educate myself to figure out how the human body works, and I said I'm going to lose, 200 pounds today, and I fired him, and that's kind of how that went. And that lifestyle was fairly easy for me to do. I am very much an all or none personality. So when I set my mind to something, that's it. That's what I'm doing. So, you get a few looks the first couple years at Thanksgiving, Christmas, things like
Hmm.
that. But very, very quickly, people were like, yeah, she's not going to be tempted by any of these cakes, cookies, things like that. And I stayed that course for 28 total years doing keto. But somewhere around the 26-year mark is when like the Quest bars and the keto treats started coming out on the market. Well, what I had fixed from the beginning was joint pain that I had at 20 bad, like you would expect an 80-year-old to have. I had acne, I had depression, anxiety, really, really bad OCD, uncontrollable OCD with cleanliness. Like I would get up and shampoo carpets at 2 in the morning because they needed washed. Um, so I had a lot of those things. I had like skin issues, just different, not really eczema. Nobody had ever told me that's what it was. It might have been. And so at year 26, I'm eating these treats with maltodextrin and the really high amounts of sugar alcohols. And I think that really did a number on my gut. And I got leaky gut from that. And I started back with really bad cystic acne, joint pain, to the point where I couldn't do my sprints, I couldn't do my workouts. And I was sitting on the couch scrolling through Facebook, and this guy I'd never heard of, Joe Rogan, came through, and there's this big ox of a guy sitting there talking to him, and it was Dr. Sean Baker, and he was talking about carnivore, and I was like, "Yep, I think that's what I'm going to do." And the very next day, that's exactly what I started doing was carnivore,
This
and
was how
I
long ago?
actually 2019 February. I'm coming up on 7 years. Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
February. It's the best month of the year, by the way. It is my birthday. Uh,
Well, there you go. Yeah. So, that was even easy for me, and it was pretty easy. I do work with a lot of clients, and they're like, "But my husband eats like this," and I said, "My husband eats standard American diet for the most part. He does eat a little better. He follows the seasons. He eats when garden food when it's garden time. When it's deer and ice fishing, he'll eat more variety of that kind of stuff. But he has Oreos on top of the fridge. But it just never once I had my mindset and, 28 years of not taking in any of that, it didn't have any pull on me anymore after that. So, yeah. And then in 22, I actually switched to the lion version of carnivore just because I had a few other health things that I wanted to get rid of. And so I purposely did that. And I'm glad to say I can do L reuteri yogurt now, which I'm lactose intolerant. I have to use A2 milk. And I can do farm fresh chicken eggs. And I had histamine reactions prior to that with the egg white. So that's a couple things that I have been able to reintroduce. So I'm happy with that.
Very good. If you have any questions for Laura, please put them in the chat. QQQ, so I can locate them. I haven't seen any questions. Uh, but I do have some questions for you here. One of the things uh, that you talk about is simplicity, right? Uh, Keeping things simple. Now, you were talking about keto treats. Of
Yeah.
course, there's a bunch of stuff in the store. Should we be eating any of that stuff?
Zero, not one thing. If it has a label, if it has ingredients more than one or two, yeah, I think that is it's garbage.
Mm. Yesterday, I bought at Sam's Club. Was it yesterday or the day before? I think yesterday. Uh, a rib roast smoked, and and the only thing that really has heavy is black pepper, so a seasoning.
Okay. Mhm.
Uh, and I thought when I went to read the ingredient list, I thought, oh, this is gonna have sugar and a bunch of stuff. No, just beef, salt. It was smoked, but no sugar. Many people do put sugar when they're smoking stuff,
Mhm.
and it's just heavily. So it's sort of a blackened rib roast, but it's smoked, it's cooked. I bought it. I said, okay, for Thanksgiving next
Yeah,
week, I'm invited to a couple of places. I'll take some. Uh,
sure. That's
all
a good
right.
idea.
So we have a question from for Pigs Fly Farm. How long did it take you to get over the histamine issues? I've been online since May 1st of this year.
So for myself, because while I was doing this for myself, I was working with about 15 people on my website who also had histamine issues. So it was kind of nice because we could bounce ideas off each other. But it took probably 6 months for me to get that. And one of the easiest things that I found that really helped, uh, it'll cost you $2.79 to buy a box of Knox gelatin unflavored, the old orange and white box, and it has 4 packets in it. And I literally made up like Jello bites, like little jiggler bites of those, and would eat that every day to help kind of coat the lining of the stomach, help inhibit or help you produce lining. And that when I started doing that, that is actually when I saw the biggest turnaround, the fastest, was adding in just those plain gelatin bites. And it was simple. It was 4 packets to 2 cups of boiling water, a cup of cold. And then I usually did a salty packet, some flavoring packet, put it in a old brownie pan that's never been used for a brownie, but that's what the pan is, and put it in overnight, cut it in fudge size, little squares, and I would eat a couple of those every single day, and I have actually it worked for me, worked for several of our people. I actually worked with a gentleman who was fairly young who had burnt a hole in his esophagus from a, potassium tablet when he was in the hospital, got stuck, and actually ate a hole through his esophagus. And they were trying to keep an eye on it to see if it would heal. Hadn't healed up in like 4 months. So they were actually talking about going in and putting in like a mesh to cover that area. And so he started doing that. And he took some other things like L-glutamine, some different supplements that he added with that. And in 2 months' time, he went to have the upper endoscopy, and that area was closed. So I'm like, it's really for tissue, and if you don't put any flavoring in it, you can eat it, but it does taste like you're just chewing on bones because that's what it is. It's bovine bone, but it does work because I can't do bone broth. A lot of people can do bone broth. It produces a lot of histamines for me, and so far I haven't been able to do that. I haven't tried it in several, probably 2 years, because it really gave me a bad reaction. So I was like, yeah, I think I'll kind of hold off on that. So I try to do one thing at a time, give it a couple months, make sure that everything's good before I reintroduce anything to see if I can do it. So that's what's worked for me.
All righty. Uh, do you measure? Do you measure how much fat you're having or how much protein you're having?
Yeah. I don't weigh anything out because 28 years of using a scale every day, I finally was like, I'm done with that. But basically, I know pretty much by looking at something how many, grams it is. So what I did is I was 50-50 fat to protein ratio for probably the first 3.5 years of carnivore. and I went through menopause. The hormones went to the tank, and I thought, well, I know what cholesterol does. Like, I need more cholesterol. I need to get some more cholesterol on board. I knew my liver produced the majority of it, but I thought I need to bump that up. And so I bumped that up to 80%. So I eat 80% fat and 20% protein. And so basically, if I eat, there's lots of days that I choose to do a 1 or 2 day fast. But if I'm eating, it is going to be anywhere from half a pound to a whole pound of ribeye fat cut up and crispy fried with red mint salt. And then usually 4 to 6 ounces of beef, deer, lamb, one of the ruminant animals, and sometimes an egg yolk on that. And that's usually plenty. That's enough for me for a day at least.
Do you buy the beef fat somewhere? I know you use
Yeah.
I don't know if it's almost exclusively, but it's ribeye fat trimmings, right? Because
Yes.
I've heard you
Yes.
mention that. But do you buy beef fat?
I do. I buy
Oh,
the ribeye at the place where I get mine. I've been since they opened up. I basically went in, and I went in during deer season because I've always gotten ribeye fat before to mix in with my deer meat when I make hamburger. And
mhm.
so they were used to that. But then I kind of pushed the envelope and I kept going every month and getting more ribeye fat. And it was like middle of July. And finally, the guy behind the meat counter is like, "What are you doing with the beef fat?" And I was like, I said, "Well, I'm eating it." And I said, "Then I render the fat from that and I make my own soaps, lotions, all these body products." And he goes, "Okay. Well," he goes, "every time we have a ribeye sale, I will cut off all the ribeye fat." So I don't really get fat trimmings like the regular beef trimmings most of the time. It's almost always exclusively with them ribeye fat. So, and I think he sells it for 99 cents a pound. So I don't tell where that's at a lot anymore because I about ran myself out.
Oaktown Girl asks, Laura, will you please do a video topic on healing gut? My friends had a lifetime of antibiotics, and her daughter's gut is
Oh,
destroyed from being vegan.
yes, it is. Yeah, she's probably very much leaky gut, probably SIBO too, if she's been on antibiotics that much. So, yes, I will. I will add that to my list of ones to do. Sure. Yeah, I enjoy doing that every Monday. I do a video every Monday on my YouTube channel, and most of the time it's on. Sometimes it's on herbal remedies. I do. I like. I'm unlike Chafee. I do think plants are trying to kill you in certain ways, but I do utilize them for tinctures, um, oils like oregano oil for antibiotics, stuff like that. And I have had excellent success with myself and other people for better part of 30 years doing that. So that's what I use plants for now.
Okay. Best way to cook a turkey breast. Only two of us, so nothing to find fancy, and both are carnivore. That's Bill Cook asking.
Yeah. So what I would do is if you have tallow, it is delicious if you deep fat fry it in tallow. If you don't have that and you're just gonna cook it in the oven, I always kinda separate the skin from the turkey, and I'll put 3 or 4, sticks of butter in there, and then a couple cloves of garlic inside the belly part, and wrap it up and cook it.
Yes, my wife and I always make a turkey for Thanksgiving. Even if we're visiting someone else, we'll take the turkey, and then we do that heavy with butter, some spices, and
Yeah,
I haven't found an alternative, so don't kill me when I say this. I do use a plastic baking bag
yeah,
because I will, you don't lose any of the juices of that butter melting,
right.
and slow low temperature, very slow, until basically meat is falling off the bone. So,
Yeah. Yeah, what I used to do when I ate turkey, like 4 or 5 years ago, for Thanksgiving is we had bought a very good size. I mean, probably could hold a 20-pound turkey if it had to, and it was a clay pot, and it was like terracotta color, it was kind of that rusty color with the lid. And when I cooked it in that, it stayed very, very moist. I didn't have to wrap it prior to that. I did the plastic bag, I did foil, who knows, all the stuff that came from that. But, you know, you're not going to be able to get rid of 100% of everything unless you live in a bubble. And then I was at the University of Iowa with David, the boy in the bubble, which was still plastic. So you're still going to be, you're going to have something around. So you do the best you can.
all right. So you mentioned gelatin. So
Sure. Yeah.
how
Yeah.
much
So
gelatin at a
basically,
time do you eat?
so like I said, just like I think a 9 by 9 brownie pan is what I would put those 4 packets and the 3 different cups of water in, and then a packet of flavoring. Or you can put lemon juice, or you can also put apple cider vinegar with the mother in it, just a little bit for flavor. It's good. And I would do like 3 squares a day, and just the size of, the old fudge size. If you remember the fudge days, just like 3 of those a day is basically what I did with that. I've used that with people that have SIBO, that we do that. And we add in like L. reuteri yogurts, some probiotics, kimchi, kefir, kombucha, stuff like that to kind of help recolonize.
Uh, you used to buy the commercially available, good old gelatin. But can you buy just beef gelatin? I still have some beef
Yes.
gelatin there, and
Yeah. Yeah.
I do
Yeah.
add a little bit of lemon juice and some
Sure.
allulose.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, it's just called like the brand that I get, and I think it's what's been around since I remember my grandmother
Yeah,
having it,
yeah.
is it's just called the Knox gelatin. But yeah, I've seen it about everywhere, so I'd say it's pretty easy to get a hold of for sure.
Right. So, Oakton
Oh,
girl, Laura, what were your histamine symptoms? My lingering
yeah.
symptoms seem to be a drippy nose.
Yes. So the majority of my symptoms were always in the sinus area. Some of it would be I would itch just around here, and I wouldn't actually get welts, but those were the places it would itch up around my hairline, and then very much sinus pressure, swelling. And I've had my sinuses roto-rooted and kind of rebuilt from softball accidents, and, so any little bit of swelling in there is a bad thing for me because then I tend to get sinus infection because stuff's not draining and it gets stuck. So that was the symptoms that I got. I didn't get any of the gut symptoms and stuff like that. But the other thing that I got was when I would eat those things, like especially like egg whites, bacon. I loved bacon and pork belly. I made my own. It was like I hadn't eaten anything. It was like I'd eat it and I'd get the itches, and the other thing was my knuckles. The next day I would always wake up and my knuckles, I couldn't open up my hands. It was just like painful and swollen. Not so much my knees or my ankles, but my hand joints would definitely pay the price. So yeah, once I kind of started clearing out the pork, I cleared out the chicken. Now I can eat some dark chicken, but I usually get that from my daughter because, and other people that I know are raising their chickens the old style and they're not giving them a bunch of junk. And because what you feed a chicken and what you feed pork is what you eat because it gets into their meat. So,
Uh, what has it done for you? I mean, you've been for a long, it's a long time, right?
yeah, yeah.
On keto and carnivore. Has it helped you in any way mentally?
Oh, yeah.
And
Yeah, so, it did because I had been on a medication called venlafaxine, probably close
Effexor.
to 15. Yep, Effexor, yep, and I was, on the 37.5, which I think's the lowest dose that comes in, but I had been on it for 15 years, and, just little by little. Keto, I was pretty good until I went through a divorce. That's kind of when it hit. So then I went on Effexor, um, and then it kind of just stayed like at bay. It wasn't horrible. I didn't really have a lot of side effects, except I had no personality. Like it muted. Nothing was really funny, and yeah,
Everything
very blah.
flattened.
Yes, and, so I didn't really care for that. I didn't notice that everybody else started telling me that I used to be funny, and they're like, "You don't laugh," and I was like, "Yes, I do," and they're like, "You never laugh," so I was like, "Okay." But I noticed that the biggest improvement was when I went carnivore within, and it wasn't as fast, like, the joint pain was quick, the cystic acne was quick, um, but the anxiety, depression was probably within 3 months, I'd say, and then I actively started working with my doctor. I am not anti-doctor, but I did try to work with her to wean me down off of my Effexor, and she absolutely refused. She would not step down. She was like, "I'm not gonna do that. This is a lifelong diagnosis." And so being a nurse, by this point, I was a nurse, so I knew how to titrate. And so I very carefully, over 6 months' time, titrated myself off of that medication. And of course, that's about the time I also bumped up the fat. And so I felt wonderful. I've never had any, rebound effects to that. I've never had any issues come up with that. And I finally, just last year, after 6 years, I finally got that taken off of my diagnoses, which is harder than an act of Congress to ever get a diagnosis removed. They love to keep them on there. But yeah, it's done great. My OCD, I no longer shampoo carpets at 2 in the morning. Um, and I can go to sleep very quickly. I don't sit there and overanalyze and overthink. I do still think I have some OCD, but it's more of like, this is where you got it from, and when you're done, put it back. That's where my OCD comes in. But as a nurse, I have found that like open heart, cardiac cath lab, a lot of those jobs, that's that's a good thing to have because you kind of need to know where those things are in an emergency. You can't be like, where's the epi? Where's the, adenosine? No, you need to know that it's always in the same spot. So that's the way I rationalize it anyway. I can't hear you. I
I am
Are
sorry.
you mute?
My no,
There
I
you
was
go.
yeah, and my dogs were barking. I
It's okay. We don't mind
many
ducks, dogs.
many people. One of the biggest criticisms with carnivore sometimes before they know, oh, especially now that beef has gone up a little bit, it's not affordable, right? And
Mm.
I cannot afford going carnivore because I'm spending too much money. What do you think about that?
So one of the things I pride myself on, because I everybody says to say that I'm frugal, but I really am cheap. So I am not somebody that eats a ribeye every single day. I'm never going to do that. Even if I could afford to do that, I would never do that. So I'm somebody that I eat a lot of hamburger, 80-20 mix hamburgers. What I do, I eat a lot of lamb, and I buy everything when it is on sale. We just bought a brand new freezer. Our other one was only 5 foot. This one's 7 foot. And we buy stuff in bulk and I break it down into smaller packages and put it away. But I have worked with several clients, especially late last year, that were on very low income, fixed income. And we just looked for deals on Amazon, and it was like canned tuna, canned sardines, different things that we could do to get their protein up. You know, finding farm fresh eggs in their area. I had a couple people in North Carolina that we did that with, and just kind of put the feelers out there for people that lived in that area to kind of help do that. And the thing is when I was eating standard American diet, I had 3 meals every day and I had snacks in between. And I probably was eating again right before I went to bed. And if you add up that plus whatever you throw out, because I'm not going to eat lettuce unless it is coated in a bunch of unhealthy stuff. So by the end of the week, half of the stuff I had bought was in the bottom of the crisper and it was ready to go in the trash. So I figured the amount that I'm not throwing out, I save. And I do, especially at least once a month, a 3-day fast. A lot of times I'll do a 1 or 2 day fast during a week because of the health benefits of it. Um, and especially like helping with brain fog. I think it's a really fast way of kind of getting that cleared out. But if you're starting to feel like, or you're around people that are sick and you're like, I do not want this, I will fast on purpose because of how it affects the immune system. But I find that I actually spend less now than I did before, even with the prices going up. And like I said, if I'm going to have ribeye, I'm buying it on sale, and that's how I do that. So it can be done. You have to be willing to work a little bit to find the sales sometimes, but I do think it's worth it. And like you said, you guys have like Costco's and stuff like that. So, if you can get in and get deals with that, I think that's a good way to save some money.
Well, today, for those who are, we have in Florida, we have Publix all over the state.
Yeah.
I don't know how many other states they have Publix, but Publix just went on a sale. Now, of course, this is not the sale from 4 years ago where we had a standing rib roast for $6.99. Unfortunately, now there is $10.99, but still, you know,
Still
uh,
better.
a lot is a very good price because Walmart. That's where I go hunting, Laura.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
Walmart has uh, choice rib rolls. Well, choice rib steaks. Couple
Right.
steaks on for 19 something a pound, right? And they
Mhm.
had rib roast, about a 4 pound roast for 13.99 a pound. So
Yeah.
10.99 a pound right now in Publix. They have a limit of two, but you can go morning and afternoon and
I was gonna
and
say, yes, you can. You put a cooler in the back end of your vehicle, and every time you leave the door and come back in, you are considered a new customer.
well, I can afford to go home, go next day, or
Yeah.
because I happen to have one literally by car 3 minutes, probably less than
Oh,
10
good.
minutes walking. So
Perfect.
so and I think I noticed Eleni was here. She if you didn't know it, Eleni, 10.99 a
Mm.
pound for the rib rolls. Already uh with butchers forget the liter rope what it's called, but it's already ready,
Yeah.
debone.
Oh, yeah, they've already broke it down.
Yes.
Yeah.
So now, okay, so again, going back altogether between keto and carnivore, you've been on a low carb diet for how long?
The day
More
before Thanksgiving this year will be 34 years.
34 years. So
Eh, I'm 54.
another pushback that I get from some people is not, this is not about the price or the cost, but oh, it's not sustainable to be on a low carb on Atkins diet. It's not
Yeah.
sustainable. You've been doing
Mhm.
this for 34 years altogether. But
Yeah.
what advice do you give people who may give you that excuse?
I've had the same thing thrown at me before. And I'm like, well, I've done this almost 34 years. Kelly Hogan's like at 15 or 16. You've got Dr. Baker and all these people. And I'm like, it is sustainable. You got Maggie, the rancher from Canada. I mean, she's done it since she was like 12 and she's 80 something, and looks 50. She looks younger than I do. Um, so it is sustainable. I think most of it is a state of mind. It is mind over matter. And it is,
Hmm.
I think it comes down to the same thing. I learned a ton when I started doing extended fasting. So when I first went into, oh, probably 25 years into keto, I started watching and listening and buying books from Dr. Jason Fung. And so I was like, I like this autophagy idea. This makes sense. And so I started doing some 5-7, watered fast with the mineralized salt. But what I found out very quickly is it wasn't about the hunger here in your stomach, it was here. And it was because you get downtime and normally you're like, what do I do with my time? What do I do with my time? And so I had to find hobbies. It was making these products that I put out on my website. I crochet lap blankets for every one of my home health patients. And when they graduate, they get a blanket, just things like that, staying busy. But it is absolutely sustainable if you are in it for your health. I'm not just in it for vanity, like I want to be a size 12 or 10 or whatever. I don't care about that. I know a lot of people do, and that's fine. But I'm not worried about it. My cardiac calcium score has remained zero from 378. So I am somebody that had a higher score and actually it did go down, which I know a lot of times we were taught that that was impossible, but I did it.
So let me ask you a question not related to carnivore.
Okay.
Uh, Hold on, I'm gonna send a text to someone related to this. Uh, so someone in my house loves crocheting. Okay, so the question is, can you have too much yarn?
No, no, you can't have too much yarn. I told my husband just the other day, because I was buying new yarn, and he's like, well, don't you have enough? And I said, look, my yarn is just like my guns and ammunition. You can't have too many of any of those things. So I'm like, nope, never too much yarn.
Answer is no.
That's right.
Do you want to repeat that? Hold on a second. Hold on a
Uh,
second.
you
Did you hear my question?
Yes.
This is my wife here.
Yes.
Uh,
Okay, perfect. And yes, you can never have too much yarn. You need more.
And more and more. From every
And
place you go, you
absolutely.
visit. Thank
Yes, you got to
you.
have their style. You're welcome.
I have bins in the garage full of yarn, and I'm not talking about one bin. I'm talking about 20
Yeah.
of them.
Yeah.
And anyways,
Yes. But just think, you know, I'm a prepper, which anybody here that knows me, like Oaktown, would
mhm.
know. I am very much a prepper of whatever could come, medicine wise, suture wise, food wise, pew pews and bullet wise, and also clothing, things that you could make. You know, because if the lights go out and it's the middle of winter and you live someplace where it's really cold, you will be happy that your wife can whittle you together a nice little something to cover up with your yarn.
Ah, all right.
Okay.
There There seems to be some fans of yarn here. Anyways,
Yes.
you mentioned you're a prepper. Tell us a little bit about what you have, what you keep,
Yeah,
what because you mentioned
sure.
you preserve some of this meat. You know,
Yes.
how do you
Yes.
do that? What do you do?
Yeah. So, and I have done this since I was a child. My grandmother came through Auschwitz and brought a lot of the stuff that they did in their country over. And she taught me how to cold pack meats when I was probably 6 or 7 years old, which means you take raw meat, whether it be fish, chicken, turkey, beef, deer, lamb, doesn't matter what kind of meat it is. Could be raccoon, I guess, but I don't do that. But you cut it up, you put it in jars, your canning jars, and I always put some ribeye fat or some kind of fat in there and some salt and just the good mineralized salt. And then you process that in a pressure canner for 75 minutes for pints and 90 minutes for quarts. And those things are then shelf stable. I can butter, I can scrambled eggs, you can pretty much anything. You can make like for people who are like keto. I used to can a vegetable soup that was a keto slash carnivore. It was had no beans or anything in it, and you can can that. You can can soups. You can do any of that stuff. So that's some of. I've got several metal shelves. Like I have one that's that. It's 10 different size containers of coconut oil. I have um, apple cider vinegar with the mother that I've made. I have 50 pounds of salt in one bag, 10-pound bags of Redmond salt in other bags, 1-pound bags, turmeric, cayenne pepper for blood thinning purposes, all those things. And then I have just survival stuff that you would need, things that you can light fires with, um, clothesline so that if you needed to dry clothes or hang up something to sleep under it, you could. I mean, I literally watched a prepper show the other day and they were like, you need these 34 things. And I was like, check, check, check. And then I was like, ooh, there's a couple they didn't have. So, I mean, I have like clocks that are the old style that look like they come out of a watch case and it opens up and you turn the dial to have it run. I
Mhm.
have those. I have solar generators. I have a little bit of everything.
So you've been doing that for a while, right? So
Long time.
the older stuff, do you ever
Mm,
sort of use and
yes.
rotate? Okay.
Yes. So that is part of my OCD is every month I go through that shelf and I bring forward the older stuff to the front because we use it as we are going. So because I'm always making more. So, he'll make beef and noodles, which is really deer and noodles most of the time. Uh, he'll just come in and grab a jar, something like that. Or sometimes he'll grab some of the hamburger that's been canned and he'll make himself like a sloppy Joe or just whatever with it, or spaghetti or something, or puts it in like chili. So yes, I move everything up like that. I did have several hundred quarts of tallow that was rendered and canned. It's sealed in the jars, and that's good indefinitely. I mean, I have some that are old and they don't, if you don't get a good seal, if you don't render out the meat, then you will be in trouble quickly. You'll know it's going to have like a mold fold form on it. But that was kind of one of the things that made me start my line of tallow products is because when I went clean eating, I started looking at all the ingredient labels on lotions, shampoos, deodorants, and I thought, well, holy hell, I'm not eating this stuff, but they're putting it in your products that you put on your body. And that's when I just started making the natural products with the tallow. And so I have used up some of those, but I always make more.
All right. Uh, do you, and you've mentioned salt many times, do you use electrolytes or do you make your own?
Yeah. I do use electrolytes now. I didn't for a long time. I used to make my own Soleil water. I'd put it on the counter overnight and make your own Soleil water. which you can just do with filtered water and a mineral salt is the main, that's the two things you have to have. So I used to do that. And then after Keto Palooza last year, I was kind of afraid to do any of the electrolyte powders because maltodextrin gets me. So there was another company there and I did try theirs and I had immediate reaction. The maltodextrin reaction I get is the soft palate in my mouth swells and itches. Um, even though at the time they had said that there wasn't any in there, which later they came out and said there was. So, which is fine. I mean, it just happens. But this other company had theirs and I tried theirs and I've never had any reaction. So I actually use salty brand
I was going to tell
electrolytes.
you because I've spoken to the owner several times, and
Yes.
he's OCD about not having bad
Yes.
ingredients.
Yes.
So I'm sure
Yes.
you can appreciate that. And
Yes, yes. I
uh,
actually met him at Keto Palooza. He was there, and that's who I actually talked with and bought my first, 30 pack sample stuff with. And, even, and I don't know if it's because I'm so far into this lifestyle, but I do the Coco Loco because I never really was a big chocolate fan. I was candy fan, but not really chocolate. But um, it's just something warm that I do in the morning. And my husband likes to drink coffee. I really could care less about coffee. I don't need it. I'm hyper enough, and we don't need to see me on coffee. So I do Coco Loco with my iodine in there every day. And I've never had it like make me want to go look for something sweet, which in my past, if I started on something sweet, then that's what it would do. I forget what they call that part of the brain that it's like, boom, there you go. You're getting a dopamine hit. And so you're looking for your next dopamine response. So I don't get that from that product. So yeah, I've been very happy with them. And it's been over a year that I've been having that every single day. And I've done some different flavors specifically so I could do those gelatin bites. Like they have one that's like a sunrise orange or something. It's citrusy, and that's the one I put in my gelatin bites when I'm going to make those.
all right, I'm bringing up this. I guess this is the
Yep,
landing page on your website, but to see the products, you have to click on that, and
yep,
this
yep,
is your website, and it's written on your uh,
yep.
under your your picture there,
Yeah, yeah.
russellbrands.com.
With a Z. Yeah, with a Z, because there's a comedian out there from, I think, the UK, Russell Brands. And so, yep, you just click on that top picture. This is also the page where if down, they can book time with me under Laura Lynn, where it says Laura Lynn. It says you can speak with the nurse, I believe.
Book with Nurse Lauren.
Yep,
All right.
yep.
So if you were not aware, now you have the website to go to. What is what is the biggest mistake that you see carnivores doing?
Not eating enough fat. 100% of every person I have worked with, over 3,000 in 2 years, um, every single one, especially females, we just got that beat into our heads in the 90s. It was aerobics and no fat, aerobics and no fat. That is the hardest thing when I'm working with people is you got to let that go. And I'm a cardiac nurse, and I've had people go, well, you're going to have heart disease and stroke. And I'm like, well, there has to be some other things going on for this to happen. But I promise you, the majority of the patients that we saw in the cath lab with multi-vessel damage, to the point where they had to have bypass, they were too far gone. We couldn't PCI, put stents in. And most of them, they had very low cholesterol. They were not heavy. They were the skinny fat people that you hear about. Um, and their total cholesterol was low and their LDL was in the tank, which meant their vitamin D was in the tank, their immune system was in the tank. Those people were full of these lesions. Um, and during one of the open heart surgeries, a lesion actually came out of the widowmaker. He had put the two openings to bypass around, and I only saw it happen twice where just that pressure change and the lesion actually came out. And so I thought he dropped his scalpel. So he was the kind of surgeon that you could kind of, joke with a little bit. And I was like, James, did you drop your scalpel? And he was like, no, that was the plaque. And I was like, wait a minute. Wait a minute. We're telling people that plaque is all this cholesterol, but how does cholesterol sound like that? And then when we looked at it, it was very skinny, but it looked like a piece of chalk. And so we sent it down for pathology, and actually, phosphorus, manganese, boron, I mean, all the things, calcium that goes into your system were very high in that. There was some triglycerides because, your immune cells they're trying to go to an area of injury to cure, to fix it. But it was very small amount of actual cholesterol that was in it. It was a lot of red blood cells, forming a clot too. But that's when I was like, okay, how are these people having five-way bypasses? I mean, our youngest one was a 51-year-old vegan who had been vegetarian her whole life growing up, and then she went to medical school. She was a doctor who worked at our hospital and then became vegan in medical school and had stayed vegan. And she had a five-way bypass we had to do. And I mean, her bones were junk because all that bone material, the matrix was all inside her blood vessels. And it was just, yeah, it was very eye opening. And that's kind of when I was like, okay, yes, there are some conditions and there are some metabolic diseases that I don't think you should eat the standard American diet and the high fat, content. I think that's a recipe for disaster. Um, but I do think that if you are keto carnivore, I think you need to bump up the fat. Your body and your brain will thank you.
Have you read the book The Clot Thickens by Malcolm Kendrick?
I have not. My mother does have that book though. Yes.
All right. I read it. That explains perfectly what you actually saw and the feedback you got, because
Yep.
maybe those plaques are a lot more like clots that keep, you know, uh,
Yeah.
being produced, and the cholesterol, because the cholesterol plaques, if it was just the cholesterol is in all the blood, right?
Right.
But those cholesterol plaques usually happen, number one, in places of high turbulence,
Yep. Or bifurcation.
bifurcations, all
Yep.
right? And when you analyze the contents, which you firsthand did
Yeah.
this,
Yeah.
it's more like a clot and healing that is
Yep.
forming there. Okay.
Yeah.
So uh, he also has a book called The Cholesterol Con. Uh,
Ah,
and I listened to them. He's he's writes with humor as well. So
good.
highly recommend that. Uh,
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I have someone I know that I just found out he had a heart attack and now he went vegan.
Oh,
Yeah,
so
we're
he'll
gonna
have another one down the road.
we're gonna have a Thanksgiving together, so we'll be talking.
Good. So you can, yes, you can evangelize him.
Yeah, it's gonna be difficult, but there's more backstory there.
Yes.
Uh, Carnivore Jerry is
Yeah,
asking, do you think people who have allergies to cats may be due to the food that we may be feeding the
I do.
felines?
I do. And I'll tell you why I believe that is because I had the same asthma allergy doctor who was an immunologist and a virologist who I absolutely adored. And I had done oil-based allergy shots for several years, probably 20 plus years for cats, lots of things, because I'm allergic to basically put me outside and it's grass, trees, dust, pollen, everything. everything that's in the Midwest, especially. And cats was big, and I love cats. I have cats, but I used to have allergies around my cats when I was in my 20s, 30s. Well, then I got a cat who just passed away in August at 22 years of age, who was a carnivore cat. So as soon as he had stones in his kidneys when he was very young, he was less than a year, and the vet, took him out, told me to put apple cider vinegar with the mother, a couple drops in his water every day, and he never made another stone. But he also said he can't process the cat foods that we have out here. And that's when I started making the raw cat food. And that's what he had his whole life. The only cooked food he got was in the morning at the dining room table. My husband uh, is very bad behaved, and he feeds the animals at the table. So they will stand on their back feet, and he gives them bacon and eggs every day. um, but I do think that because I had no issues with having the three cats in my house over that time frame, and I've only been carnivore going on 7 years. So I do think it was more to do with what I was feeding the cat.
All righty. So it's already the top of the hour, past 1 minute past. Time flies. By the way, you mentioned long-term carnivores, but you didn't mention someone who's here who you know, Rick. Rick is here, 42 years
Oh yeah, he's
carnivore.
been forever. That's right. I forgot. Yeah, he's gonna have Maggie built or beat because he's gonna live to be like 115 at least.
Yes. He just went to Hack Your Health,
I heard.
and we we had fun. We had food together. We ate together. Uh, Anyways, we're out of time. Thank you very much for being here. Uh, Let me take this comment out of here. Oh, actually, I'm easy to
Uh,
forget, he says.
you are not. You and Milton, two of my favorite people.
All right. So you can see there her website. You can visit it. Her channel is at Healthy Carnivore. Thank you for being with us today. And those who are in the community, Kills Mighty Tribe, at 5:30 we have a Zoom call, and we'll see you again tomorrow at 6 a.m. Okay. Do you have anything else to say? Something that
Yeah.
does not have to do with buying yarn, by the way.
Buying yarn. Well, Christmas shopping. This is a good time for her to go Christmas shopping.
She already started, by the way. Uh,
Perfect.
Anyways, do you have a final message?
Um, Basically, a final message is something I do with all my home health patients is even if somebody's afraid to jump in to go keto or carnivore to start with, if they could just get rid of the highly processed foods and try to stick to the outside aisles of your grocery store, and get some books on some healthy things like on fasting. I recommend Lies Your Doctor Told You from Dr. Ken Berry. Different ones, Dr. Berg has some stuff out. People like that. I think educating yourself is wonderful. And just try to figure out your body is like a Porsche, and everything you put in it is the fuel for that. Do you want it to run clean or do you want it to run inefficiently? Because food is our fuel. So that would be my main
What's
thing.
the longest fast you've done?
I actually did kind of a 14-day. I did 7, had a 6.5 hour surgery, drank bone broth, 1 cup, and then went right back to another back-to-back 7-day fast after that surgery. So where my blood sugar was 55 and they freaked out. And I'm like, that's my normal.
All right. Thank you very much for being here. Everybody, thank you for being here. You have a good great rest of the day, and we'll see you tomorrow. Bye bye.
All right.